Hey up everybody and welcome back. Right, well, as you can see, I got the other footrest on. I'm going to show you that because the mountings were different, so I had to do something completely different for that. Also, I had a number of comments that I put the hangers on the wrong way upside down. You may be right, I don't know, but I always put them on like that and they work fine. So as my policy is always the right way is the way that works, I'm quite happy with them. So what else is new? It's almost 80 degrees out there. I think it was like 78 yesterday and I think it's very close the same today. So weird. Right, excuse me, the hammerhead saga continues. I kept going to places to find some xylene, couldn't get any, and then one of the places I went, the sort of manager there, the lady called the manager when she couldn't find any, and he said, "Oh, I'm pretty sure xylene's banned in New York." So I went online, sure enough it seems that it is. So I phoned Dick, my super machinist friend, because he lives in Pennsylvania. I only live about, maybe 20 miles away from sort of the New York to Pennsylvania border. So I phoned him to ask him, I just caught my finger and it's hurting a bit, to ask him if you could buy it down there. And he said, "Hang on a minute," and he went off into his very tidy storeroom, came back and said he had a gallon. Well, I only want, you mix this 4 to 1. I only need about a pint to paint all this, so that would be a quarter of a pint of xylene I need. So that's sorted, going down there on Thursday. Steam Shop and I will go down for a visit. I also had a comment to be careful with xylene. It was very kind of you to think of me, but don't forget I spent my entire life working around aromatic hydrocarbons. I must have put literally hundreds of thousands of tons of xylene, benzene, toluene, etc. on and off ships. So don't worry about that. So as I say, I'm going to show you that. That's why I left it up here. And then I'll take all that apart so that I can paint it. Can't paint it this weekend. Today is what's today? Tuesday. Saturday I've got the new team riders coming for Team Britannia to try out the bikes, because none of these fellas have ever ridden anything like the Big Enfield and the Triumph and that. So although they're very keen, I thought I'd best get them in and get them riding, because like with me with the modern bike, they just might not be able to cope with them, or just simply might not like them. Maybe I should say that. So there's that. Oh, one other thing, when I phoned Dick, he mentioned that he saw me touching my nose again. I have no idea how that happens. I put it in, I watch it, I stop it, I put the little cut thing in and it takes it out. So why it's still there, I don't know. Anyway, the important thing is, got a box. It's the Villiers parts. So we'll open that, see what's what, and then I've got things to do today. Tomorrow we'll start work on the engine. And Steam Shop called me this morning. As you know, he's got the cylinder. So he thought we might be able to get away with a plus 20 piston because he'd taken so much off. He reckoned it was cleaned up enough and he was a few thou off a plus 20 piston, but he didn't want to go anymore until he saw the piston, of course. But I said, don't worry, we can go to plus 80, so I'll just order a plus 41 and we've got lots of meat to work with. So let me show you this first and then we'll open this box. Right, so the reason I didn't really bother showing you this, although last week's video was a bit of a marathon, I didn't realise it had gone to an hour and then I couldn't see any way to shorten it, was because I thought it was just going to be duplicate of the other side. There's the one off the other side. So you see that goes onto there and then that goes onto the little thing. Well, on this side, as you can see, look, it's completely different. There. So I had to make this big piece Hang on, hold on. So the way I did it was I made the main piece identical to the other side so it looked right, and then I've made another piece under here which goes onto the mounting that I'm pointing at there that you can't see. That mounting. So let me take this off and I'll show it to you. Right, well, so there is the one that went on. So what I did was I made this piece that goes on the back. So that sort of duplicates that. The reason it's got that little thing there is because this one as well, it's 5/16. It's definitely, well, it might be 5/16 on the other side. I'll have to look into that. So anyway, I just left a little sort of nipply thing to line it up to go in there so it doesn't wobble about too much. But anyway, that is that. Alright, let's get to this box. Actually, I'm going to change the battery as well. So that didn't take too long. So if I order the piston today, that shouldn't be too long. I've got to order a gearbox sprocket as well. 428 chain. I just had a quick look at their website, and the 520 sprockets go right down. It's quite small, but the 428 sprockets, they only have two, a 17 and an 18 tooth. And you know, that rear sprocket I've got is a 428, the wheel sprocket. A box inside a box inside a box. Well packed. There's stuff inside, there's bubbly stuff around this box in the big box. Okay. Complete clutch, including all the funny plates. Bearings, engine bearings. Clutch springs. Primary chain. Little bag of rollers for the clutch. Gaskets, including that copper thing that he mentioned that goes on the clutch to keep the rollers in. Set of oil seals and O-rings and other gaskets. Alright, that's the chain case out of one. The head gasket's just a thin aluminium one. Okay, so that's everything I ordered. Let's get everything organised so we can get at the engine and we'll start to rebuild it. So it's Wednesday morning and this is going to be like the Enfield because I've already realised I didn't order a gearbox sprocket. I was half thinking I've got to order a piston anyway, so anything I miss I'll get then. But of course the gearbox sprocket means that I can't build up the drive side because I've got to put the gearbox sprocket on before I can put the inner chain case on and the clutch and all that. So fortunately there's only the clutch on that side, So we can build up the bottom half, we can bolt the gearbox on, we can do the mods that need to be done for the electronic ignition, we can get all that done. And then, plus I went online, Villiers only lists a 17 and an 18 tooth sprocket, and this one's got a 14 tooth sprocket on, and Greeves list a 13 tooth. And I'm pretty sure everything that Greeves have, they get from Villiers. So, I mean, it would be stupid for them to make things when they can buy them. So anyway, I've got the oven on to warm these up to get the bearings in. So this one, the roller bearing, we put this in first, and the roller bearing goes in from that side, and that stops it from dropping all the way through. Then this side gets a little bit technical because there is bearing, then there is a circlip, then there is a spacing piece, and then there is another bearing. Right, now of course this bearing came out with the crankshaft when I pressed it out, the other bearing didn't. So I'm going to put all the bearings into the cases. One reason I'm putting them in is we're going to measure, I don't know, I can't find any mention about end float for the crankshaft, but when we've got the bearings in, we're going to take, so I'll show you how to take some measurements to find out what the end float is. Because you know, they always talk about measuring end float. You put the crank in and then you push it to one side and you put your dial indicator up against it and then you push it out and see. I mean, you see me, well, even this one, I had to press the crankshaft out of the bearing. So how can you put it together and slide it backwards and forwards? You can't. But I'll show you the way to do it purely by measurement. Alright, so let me get these in the oven. Well, I've got to put this thing in first. So that is going to go in. There, like thusly. So now when I drop this bearing, well, just the cage, and I drop that in there, see that? Almost starting, so that'll be fine when that's heated up. That'll just drop in. I'll find a piece of alloy to make sure I can just press them, make sure they're absolutely home. That's it. So I'll bring you back when these have heated up. Right, let's see if this is hot enough. Get it in the oven. Okay, there's that one in. It's just the wrong size. Yep, that one is definitely in. Leave it like that with a bit of weight on it. Okay, so we'll leave that to keep heating up. Make it as simple as possible. Now then, let me think. It's the small one first, then the clip. The spacer, I've got a piece of rod here, so that when I put that bearing in, hang on, I've got to keep walking backwards and forwards to see that you can see everything. Yes, I thought I'd set it up like that. So we'll drop that one in, we'll put the clip in, and then we'll drop that one in, and do that like that. Right, with that right through, that'll line everything up while it sets up, and then we should be alright to get the crank in. Hopefully. Now then, I've got, nope, that's a bit small for that. Thought I'd got a piece for that. Hang on, let me switch you off. Let me just show you this other little job I've done while the cases were heating. The handlebars are actually on here with a couple of things like that. I mean, they're just hollow, and 2 U-bolts. Well, on this side there must have been water standing in the bottom, because it was, I mean, it was pitted right down. So I mean, you wouldn't have seen it or anything. I don't think it compromised the strength, but I've just filled it up with some bronze and smoothed it back out again. Minor thing, but I was looking for something to do. Right, let's see what this other case is like now. Alright, next one. You're waiting because I've got to walk round to the oven to get it out. And I don't want to burn myself, and I can't find me really thick gloves, so it's a minor fiddle on. Alright, what have we got here? Okay. This is going to be awkward. Good, that's dropped right into the bottom. Oh, I didn't get the circular pliers out. Circular pliers, what do I want? The ones that squeeze up. Right, that's that in. And that is that one in. All right. Well, that was relatively painless, wasn't it? Okay, I can switch the oven off. We'll let them cool down. So that all looks fine. Yep, that's below the level of there. Excellent. Let me go and find it. Well, it's getting on towards lunchtime. Here's a little bit of gossip for you, completely useless. When I go and have lunch with Steam Shop, we go to a little place and the lady there bakes, and every now and again she makes the most beautiful ginger scones. I love ginger. So I'd mentioned to her that the next Wednesday we would be there to make some, and now we're not going to be there. So I don't want her to get upset, so I'm going to run down there and see if she's got some. Right, well, I'm glad I went to get me ginger scones, because the lady was telling me she actually went out specially yesterday because she didn't have any ginger. So if I hadn't have turned up, she might have been miffed. Alright, I'm just getting everything ready, and in the parts book and that, there's no mention of shims or anything, and it suddenly struck me that I don't think the end float is important, and that is because the bearing on this side is basically, I don't know if it's the right term, but it's a floating bearing. In other words, it's not held in place. I mean, the outer race is, but the inside of the bearing is going to be able to go to wherever it needs to be. So it's not like it's out this far and then we've got a shim here to get it up. When you have everything on the other side and everything's tightened up, that bearing will move to be where it should be, or at least that's what I think. I'm sure if I'm wrong you'll tell me. But what I'll do is I'll tell you how I was going to do this. Alright, because apart from anything else, I don't think this is going to be a long video. I found there's a place in California called Speed and Sport, run by a chap called Matt Hilgenberg. And he imports a lot of stuff from the UK. Over on the West Coast, there's a lot more pre-65 type bikes. If you go to a trial over there, the chances are you're going to see people on Enfields and Matchlesses and Greaves and cottons and stuff like that. Not a lot, not like in the UK, but far more than you see on the East Coast, where there virtually aren't any, or at least that's been my experience of 20 years of going to trials up and down the East Coast. So I checked his website, and he had a plus 40 piston, and he had actually a 12 tooth sprocket. So I ordered that, and luckily I thought on he had Greeves tank stickers, so I got them ready for painting the tank. So it'll still take a while for it to arrive, but the prices were comparable with getting them from the UK, so he must get enough of a discount from Villiers to be able to sell them at a reasonable price. Alright, so how do we do this end float thing without actually building the crank up? Well, what we do is we take our crank and we measure from this face here to that face there, because those are the faces that will be touching the bearing. All right. That bearing is very stiff. Let's have a look into that. So this is going to be one bearing up to there, one bearing up to there. So we measure that, right? In this instance, it is 2.12, 2.120, right? 2.120. Then I'm just using this because I've got a bolt sticking down. Hang on. Now I've moved you up out of shot, haven't I? Yeah. Well, let me turn this light off. That's a bit better as well, isn't it? Then what we're going to do is we're going to measure from this joint face down to that inner race of the bearing. And that is 1.493. Now, as I say, whoops, with this not being a fixed bearing, this isn't actually going to work. Come on now, what's the matter with all these bearings? There we go. Now here is the other joint face. So what you would now do, bearing fell, is measure from there down to the inner race of that bearing. Then you add those two numbers together and you deduct it, or you check to see it should be more than from there to there, right? Because when those two cases are put together, the distance between the two bearing faces is going to be the depth in this case plus the depth in that case. So you'll know how much space you've got, and you'll know how wide the crank is. So the crank should be less than the space inside the case. Alright, so as I say, seeing as that doesn't matter, we might as well put this together. There's the bearing, fell out. Alright, let me get us organised again. I think that we've got to put this back together. Showing my ignorance here, so the same way as it came apart. Because putting it together like this has got that spacing piece sort of almost under pressure in between the two inner races. The bearings virtually don't want to move. That one is really stiff. That one I can't move at all. So I think what we've got to do is put that outer bearing, actually it goes on this side, on there first. So that'll be tight on there. Right, because that isn't going to tighten up. That's going to tighten, this side's going to tighten up onto this bearing, and that's going to give that bearing that bit of float. So I'm going to put this back in the oven and drop that that inner bearing out in the spacer and put them on there, and then we'll put it together. Okay? Am I making a balls up of it? Who knows? So while we're waiting for that to heat up, let's have a look at what we're going to do to fit this electronic ignition. So you get some really good instructions. Okay, so we've got to tap 2 holes. Where are we? Okay. And the 2 holes we tap, which are going to be 6mm, and it only says 6mm. I've just checked. The bolts we got for it are 6x1, so it is that hole, and that hole. Right, so it's that hole and that hole there. And I presume they chose 6mm because these holes are just the right size to tap without having to drill them out. Don't worry, the cuttings from this are just falling on the floor. Bang! What was that? Could be anything. And we'll check these 2 bolts. I'll check the bolt. Squirted a little bit of WD-40 on this. I will for the next one. I won't show you the next one because it's going to be exactly the same as doing this one. And it says to use the dome-headed ones, by which I think it means that, because these are 6mm. Come on. So what size is that? Too big. I'm just getting an Allen key. There we go. Or an Allen T. There we go. That's screwed straight into there. Right. Let me do the other one. So, reading the instructions, that's all we can do for now. Because the next thing you do is you bolt this on, but when you bolt that on, you cover these 4 mounting screws, so can't really put this on until the actual cover is bolted to there. So let's put that over there, out of the way. Mentioned, make sure you use the 2 spring washers provided. Oh, there they are, 2 little coppery looking ones. Okay, so we'll just put that back to one side for now. And put that to one side. Let's think. So this is the side for the flywheel, yes. So this goes on there. I have to move you again, and am I not? Keep going. Whoop. There we go. I've got a piece of tube here. Bit long, but you know, when I'm watching YouTube and stuff, I wear a pair of headphones so it doesn't annoy Linda. And she doesn't hear anything except when I'm watching somebody who's tapping with a hammer, and then she says she can hear it. That would probably be better if it was pressed on there, wouldn't it? And then I could put something under here to support it. Let's do that. Do the job right. Alright, so this is a tight fit in there. So it's taking the pressure on that. I've got a little stack of things made. Everything I had was the right size, was sort of too long, so that's why I made up this little stack. That's so much easier than trying to knock it on, you know. There we go. Right. And don't worry, that wasn't wedged in there so it moved, did I? Just put it in until it was tight. Right. Right, so the other case is out of the oven. The bearing just dropped out. I didn't hear it fall out. So the other thing we can do is put the oil seal on. The oil seal for this side doesn't go in the case, it goes in this. So let's think. It's going that way. Yeah, I'm just thinking whether there needs to be another gasket or whether this is right, but this will work. Okay. So we need a little bit of something. There we go. Needs to be a little bit of, there's a lip round it so that biggish piece won't knock it all the way in. Yeah, still got a little to go. So what we need is a good old socket. need a socket set for knocking oil seals in, if for nothing else. Even if you never use it for tightening nuts and bolts up. Still not quite in on that side. Actually, what we've got, see, is a couple of dowels. Come on now, go in. Yeah. Still that side. I think I've got it. You think? There we go. I can see the lip it's going up against on that side, so I can tell it's all the way in. Alright. Case is still hot, so we can't put that together. Alright, so that's good. That will go on there, like thus, and seal that up. Yeah, that will be fine. So we just got to sit around and wait now until that cools down. Then what are we going to do then? Then we're going to put that bearing up on the crank, so we'll need to be ready to press that on. Press that bearing on. It's still hot as well. Spacer's cooled down, then we can put the spacer on. And everything should be hunky-dory, so we'll need some gasket cement, and I'll get the bolts, nuts and bolts ready. Bolt, 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 bolt. So they're all bolts, there's no studs. So let me sort out the bolts and make sure they're all nice and clean and ready to go in. Well, we might end this week short and in total confusion. Let's say the bearings fell out of this, but when you look in here, see there's a step, there's a land for that bearing to go to. And that almost seems to be too long. I have to do some exact measurements, but just looked at the diagram, there is definitely a spacer on the shaft. Let me do some measurements. Okay. Actually turned both lights off. That was very bright on this alloy, wasn't it? Anyway, I'm either getting senile or something or other, because a couple of things just struck me. So first of all, the depth of this land, or the down to it, is 612.612. The bearing is 586. Alright, so that struck me as odd. But then I was suddenly thinking, I thought, wait a minute, Michael. If the centre of one bearing is pressing on that, and then that's pressing on the centre of the other bearing, they should still turn. Shouldn't they? So we'll put this bearing onto the crank. Right, I'll get that pressed on there. Oh, actually it doesn't need to press on, look. Oh, it must be made to just... Anyway, we'll get that on there. Put this on here. We'll put it in the cases. Bolt it up. And see if everything spins. And if it does, then I have no idea what's going on. But if it works, it works. So let me go and just push this bearing on the last little bit. So let's give it a go. Put some gasket cement on this one. Spacer on there. Maybe rather than tipping that up, I'd be better off putting that in there. Like that. How do we get that in there? We'll have to press that on, won't we? Support the crank and press it on. Alright, let me switch you off and go and set up. So I'll put some heat in it and see if it'll press on easily. Oh! Guess it wasn't going in quite straight. Everything's hot now. Oh dear, oh dear. Dear old bleeding dear. I mean, that's spinning. That's one good thing. That seems to be it. Let's get it off and get that up. Oh, of course that won't have done the blooming gasket cement any good, will it? Heating it up like that. Ow, this is hot. To do a bit of editing there, I left it on record, so there's a long space of nothing happening. Well, it seems, from what I can see of the bearing, it seems to have gone right in. And obviously it turns perfectly, but it's hot, so we'll let it cool down. I'll put some gasket cement on the other side and then we'll bolt it up. Alright? Alright. Let's see what we can achieve here. I've oiled the bearings. Now then. Oh, grease, 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 grease. Three long ones and two short ones. Where are we? Two short ones. Actually, these might be just a fraction short. And 1 5/8, and I think I really need 1 3/4. Oh, that must be a long one. Why doesn't that surprise me? So where's the short one? The short ones are down there. Yeah, this is a long one. And this, I think, is going to be it, because things have dragged on. And although it's only Wednesday, I'm going to be out all day Thursday, I'll be out Friday, and that's it. Saturday I've got riders coming, so last week's and this week's together divided in by 2 gives you the right amount of viewing. Here's the I'm not going to be able to get I've got to get a couple more slightly longer ones of these, but we can take everything up and I can replace these one at a time. I'll just put them in with I still don't know how people put together completely spotless engines. By the time I get to here, I'm always clarted up, either with oil or with gasket cement or something. What do I want? 7/16. Half-inch bolts. No, I don't have a thin 7/16. Oh, more haste, less speed. If I'm missing a dowel there, hopefully there's one on the other engine or it's stuck in the gearbox. Alright, so now here's the big thing. It's tightened up. Does the crank spin? Yes, it does. Nice and easily. Well, that's something anyway. Alright. As I say, I can't put the drive side on. We could put this side on. Have I got the screws for this? Yeah. That oil seal. That's on there. Now, which ones were these? These, I believe so. No, that's two. Yeah, I'm going to say there's 4 shorter ones here, because those I think were the ones that went through the coil as well as into this, unless they're a different size. No. That looks like the fella. Alright, let me turn you off for a moment, because you don't want to watch me just screwing 4 screws in. Things have been boring enough as they are. Right, back again. Got those 4 in there. So now this goes on, and it goes on with these wires going that way, because they're going to go out actually through that hole. And that reminds me, I have a bracket for the coil to weld on the frame, don't I? Oh, it's gone 5 o'clock now. Alright, so what does it say? Fix the base plate using the 2 dome-headed screws. Note, it is important to use the spring washers provided. Do not fully tighten yet, in bold print. Okay, and as I say, those wires point that way. And that, okay, so that's it's a little wavy spring type washer. That is going to go in that hole we threaded. At least I hope it is. There it goes. Don't tighten that, because we might be moving this to adjust the timing. But my back's starting to ache from bending over. I've had enough. There was annoyances today. And then after that there's a flywheel and all sorts to go on there. But I'm done. Alright, oh yes, I told you about ordering the piston and the sprocket and everything, so that's fine. Okay, sorry there's not that much this week. That just goes round nicely. So I don't know why they didn't machine that little ledge to fit the bearing on instead of giving you all that space. But again, it's maybe because of this floating one on this side. You know, it means they didn't have to make anything for close tolerances. It all just slapped together and got itself the way it should be. All right. Well, okay, that's it. Until next week, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.